and welcome back to episode 4 of Tea with Kimberly around midlife. So, this episode is about kind of like what's next, embracing and creating the future, embracing the past and creating the future. So, please grab a cup of tea, journal, and pen, and join me in this process. Right. So, we've talked about joy, we've talked about positive mindset, resilience, and now we're talking about vision for future while also embracing the past. Okay, so let's start with as we think about really honoring the past to make space for the future. So, reflecting on your achievements, right? So, what are some things, some milestones or things that really stand out to you that you're very proud of or you're grateful for that have happened in your life? And, the thing to keep in mind, and that I noted in my notes, is like these things have shaped who you are. And so sometimes too, they're very challenging ones. Maybe you got fired from a job, right? Or a relationship ended and you didn't want it to end. But these are pieces that also have made up our life's experience. And so reflecting on some of these milestones, some changes along the way, and then also letting go of what no longer serves you. So thinking about what I have here is opportunity to release old beliefs, old habits, relationships. And then also the idea with that is how do we do that to create space for what it is we want more of, what it is that is meaning for us now in our lives. So I'll give an example. For me in 2023, I made some big changes. And it was really just out of like, I recognized my energy was different. I had a special needs dog that was 24/7 care. And I just was finding myself quite depleted. And so I made some shifts to things I had been doing for 20 plus years. So one was the clothing line. I took that from being available all the time to being available just in like occasional capsules. And we have a 10-piece Paris capsule, of course. And then the other one was the podcast. So I've been doing that for 18 and a half years. And I just was like, I need a pause from it. I think the longest I'd probably taken a pause from the podcast in those 18 and a half years was a month, maybe. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to pause it. And then I will figure out what's next. And of course, the next is the season 2, which is a limited edition of interviews of midlife women. So sometimes we just have to make changes or let things go to create space for something new. Love the 10-piece Paris capsule and love the idea of season 2 limited edition podcast, right? So for you, and those are just 2 little examples for me, but what are they for you? What do you feel like I need to let go of this to make space for this? And so, as we think about a vision for the future, the other things that I have here are setting goals and, of course, visualizing success. So, one of the questions that we ask in therapy and probably in coaching too, but if you were to wave a magic wand, right, and you were to wake up tomorrow and things were exactly as you wanted them to be, what would be different? What would it look like? And so it's a great question to ask ourselves, really, I think on a seasonal basis of what would we want to be different? What do we want to shift? I want to be doing more yoga. I want to be volunteering. I want to write that book I've always said I was going to write. So, what is it for you? So, getting clear and visualizing what does that look like? And this, of course, can also be done through an art journal spread or a Pinterest board or a mood board or just writing bullets. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do this. But what would success in midlife and what would success might not even be the right word. What would joy? What would fulfillment? That's the word I want to use. Contentment. What would that look like for you in midlife at this stage in your life? And then the last thing I want to say about your vision, right? Once we kind of think about recognizing our past and acknowledging those changes and letting go of what no longer serves us, getting an idea of what ideal and contentment looks like, then we want to set goals, which I love, love, love setting goals. And those of you who have followed me for years, you know this, and you've probably been part of this process many, many times. But just thinking about like, so I have here midlife, it's a time to reevaluate your life's direction, set new goals that align with your current values and desires. They do not have to be grand. I like really small things. And again, you don't have to do some massive overhaul of your life, but there's probably some changes that are already happening. And I like to say, whenever I talk about my work as a psychotherapist, it's like career 2.0, right? So my first career was in the yoga world. I mean, really, my first career was paralegal, but that was a year, 2 years, 3 years. It was very short, very brief. And then it was like 20 years in the yoga world. And then now I've been 10 years in the therapy world. So for you, what is it, right? Is there a 2.0, a 2.0 city? I have some friends that are wanting to move to Europe, that's like a big shift from America. So what is it for you as you think about your goals for this second half of life? And again, I like to think small. It could be like, I'm looking out of my garden. I want to plant a garden, right? So I want to learn how to um, uh, beekeep. I'm just thinking of like, what are some like really obscure type things, but that are very cool and that you have to, do some education around. Or it could be that I want to go back to school and learn how to do X so that I can shift my profession to Y, right? So do you think about honoring the past, letting go of what no longer serves you, visualizing your ideal? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? How do you see yourself spending your days? And then finally, what are these goals? What do we want to set for ourselves? And I like to, as many of you know, I like to set monthly goals. So right here are maybe it's usually anywhere from like say 8 to 20 things for that month. And, sometimes it's like release 2 modules for the coterie. It's not, it doesn't have to be anything huge, like release a capsule collection, it's like little things. And then I like to review them every month. And then I share them actually online over in Substack for my paid members, where I do this like little review. And I also ask them to do the same and kind of walk them through some journal prompts for it. So for you, can you do something similar for yourself where you're able to really ask yourself, what are my goals for this month, this year, this week? And again, not because we want to be hustling and doing all the things, but just so that we don't wake up one day and feel like, wow, I haven't done so many things I said I was going to do, or I really wanted to do. Right. So we want to be more intentional, right? That's the idea behind this. And it's particularly around midlife. Like, how can we be more intentional with our time and with our energy, with our resources? All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this 4-part series on midlife has been helpful as you think about embracing the change that comes along with this stage of life. All right. Thanks for tuning in.